welcome along to the Invincible podcast. Lee Judge is in the building and Julian is here again. You comfortable today?
I am comfortable at the moment, but
because
I've had a bad neck the whole week.
This guy's been whinging about how last week he had a bad neck because according to him, he was sat in an unnatural position. Now, we were going to get VAR to assess it, to see your position. I mean, what's this unnatural position?
Well, because the way that the sofas were angled is that every time that I was talking to you, I was having to be at a right angle, and because my legs had to stay in the same position, my neck was round like that the whole time. So for the whole week, I've been suffering, but they've corrected it.
Well, we've been suffering along with because we've just heard him all the time moaning about his poxy neck.
No, but production have learnt from the mistake, and now the sofas are angled in a position where I don't have to crick my neck.
This is about his third show. Oh, production have learnt. You carry on. They'll check you off the show, mate. You carry on.
He's down there telling them what to do and everything.
Just advising.
Wants a new mic. He wants this and he wants that. I tell you what,
I'm just looking for the improvement of the whole team, nothing about myself.
Well, listen, we're going to discuss, we're still reading from it.
Yeah.
You know, the two defeats that we had over Christmas, in particular, the horror show at Fulham. And then, of course, we haven't got a lot of time to dwell on that because this week, the FA Cup returns and we've got probably the hardest game, probably the second hardest game you could have got. Last year, we got the hardest possible draw you could have got in the third round of the FA Cup. We had to go. Was it the fourth round?
Was it Oxford the first?
Oxford was the third round, and we had to go away to Man City. This year, Liverpool it is at home, but Liverpool, the most informed team in the Premier League, they've only lost one game. We've got them. It's as hard as it gets. So we're going to discuss that as well, and the FA Cup, and how important is that game now? I mean, it was always going to be important. But how important is that now? That's what we want to discuss as well. But we've got to start off by talking about the defeat at Fulham. And just in general, the Christmas period was really, really bad for Arsenal. You know what I mean? On Christmas Day, we were top of the league. By a week later, New Year's Eve, we're in fourth place. I mean, Lee, after the game against Fulham, you said that's it. It's over. Title done. Will you just... No, do you think you overreacted a bit, or do you still stick by that?
I think there's always a little bit of an overreaction after such a poor performance, but I've sort of looked at it since and all that. Listen, I go to the West Ham game.
You're laughing.
Go to the West Ham game.
No, I just like the bit where you said a little bit of an overreaction. so having been sat next to you, if you call that a little bit of an overreaction,
it was. Listen, the West Ham game, I can sort of understand, and every team will have one of them games.
Yeah, 30 shots we had.
Every team will have one of those games, But that game against Fulham has put massive doubts in my mind going forward. My confidence has now been knocked. That's why this game's important on Sunday now, because I need my confidence reassured. I see things in that game that worries me going forward.
In particular?
I don't see Liverpool, I don't see Manchester City going to teams like that being 1-0 up and losing. They might draw it, but I don't see them going there and losing. The way we capitulated in the second half, I looked at certain things, players arguing on the field, players walking off, I know it, Smith Rowe with the hand out, I get he probably didn't see him and all that, but the anger of coming off, I've not seen that in the past with players being disappointed that they've been taken off and all that, but I see anger, I see petulance in that sort of thing. I seen the team spirit not as cohesion as it has been in the past, and that performance was a big worry for me. Not so much the result obviously, but the way that we went about it. 1-0 up, didn't really do nothing if you be honest about it, even when we scored, and then you think, right, let's see if we can kick on that, especially after what happened at West Ham. I see us sit back and waiting for things to happen. When we went 1-1, then we went up a gear again. And in the second half, I see lots of disjointment. I see frustration in Arteta. I didn't see that at the time, but when you see him on the line, he's getting frustrated because there's nothing that he's doing is going right. And a big worry. A big worry.
You worried?
Yeah, I was after the Fulham game. after the West Ham game, I had no issues at all, because I agree with what you said, is that any team can have a performance or a result like we did against West Ham. We had the 30 shots. I think most days we would have won that game quite comfortably. There was a massive difference in the way we played at Fulham. Now, in the same way, just to start off on a positive, I think any team can have a bad performance as a one-off, and that's the first time I've seen Arsenal for a long time play that badly. But there's no getting away from the fact, even Arteta came out after the game and openly admitted there is no excuses. We did not deserve to win that game. And I think that's the first time I've seen Arsenal this season, and I had no arguments that I could put forward to justify Arsenal not losing that game. So hopefully it's a one-off, but there were certain things within that game that really worry me. And the biggest aspect of that was the fact that there is no plan B. They have this one way of playing. It's a very slow build-up. And even the goal that we scored, which I thought initially was a fabulous goal, because Raya throws it out quickly to Havertz. Havertz plays the ball on quickly. Martinelli runs with it, and the ball gets played in, and Saka scores. And I thought, great, what a great breakaway goal. And that's how to score against these teams, is you play fast. But even then, when you analyse it back and you see how many players were in the area, there was actually, I think, there was four or five Arsenal players in the area, which was good, but there was also 8 Fulham players in the area. And if you compare that to the first goal for Fulham, there was a 2 against 2 in the area, because even the one where we broke quickly, we didn't break that quickly because Martinelli ran with the ball, as opposed to what Fulham did is let the ball do the work and play the ball quickly. It was quick passing. So I think the issue we've got, and hopefully Arteta can learn from it, is the build-up is too slow. And if he carries on playing that way, we've already been found out, and it's easier for teams to defend against us.
Is it his fault then?
Yeah, because that's how they've been told to play. So the issue for me is the speed of the build-up. Yes, it's controlled, it's controlled and it's good, as in we're giving less away defensively, but for me, it's not the way to win a league.
I totally agree with what Julian's saying there. I can't believe I'm just saying that. But yeah, I think it is all down on it, because you have a look at last season. All the things that we was doing last season were exciting. We was the press, winning the ball back in their final third, a lot quicker, a lot more entertaining, and all that. And the other one thing that I would say about it, Robbie, is that that's not the first ground I've walked out of this season, particularly away from home, thinking, well, if we're still out there tomorrow, we ain't going to score. That's a worry for me. Like, not so much at home, you know what I mean? But I think if we be really honest, Newcastle, I know we lost the game or whatever, but if we'd have been out there, we could have been out there for 2 days, we weren't going to score in that game. A little bit like in the Villa game, there was a certain period in the Villa game when I think we looked like we was going to, and then we sort of run out of ideas, and it was just, well, it's going to happen now, And I have to say, one of the biggest problems I've got with Mikel at the moment, and I do hope that he gets it right, and I'm still backing him as the manager and all that, but I feel that you've got the right to criticise. And Jesus, I laughed at this when I see this, you know what I mean? Like, he got dropped for that game, and then the next day I see the nominations for the Player of the Month, and he's in there. So he's had one bad game against Newcastle, and you could lay that at the floor of every single player, and he's dropped. I see other players in the team playing badly and not being dropped, and I do think that, like Jesus being dropped for, I think if you want to put Eddie in the side, then you put Jesus out wide. You don't drop one. I think he's one of our most influential players, whether he's scoring or not. And he has been scoring, by the way, in the last couple of games. I think he got the header against Brighton in the lot, but didn't. But the West Ham game, you can throw a blanket over that, how many players played badly. So if you're going to leave one out, you've got to leave all of them out. And I think that's when that performance, I wouldn't have left anybody out of that game. But then he brings in Eddie, and Eddie just didn't do the business and whatever. And I just think maybe just the harmony of the team is not being
But wasn't it more of a case of rotation because we played that game just a few days after rather than being dropped? Because if it was a week later and he wasn't playing, I understand that's definitely being dropped. When you're playing games so close to each other, I would say it's more likely rotation.
Do you know what, right? Listen to what you both said, and I think you definitely make very good points in it. But you know, when I really look at the other day, so since that game, obviously, I've been thinking back, looking at how we've been playing, you know, and a lot of what you say is true, that this season definitely has been a slightly different way in which we play, trying to play with and have a lot of control, especially when we play away from home. But you know what I feel the biggest difference is between last year and this year is that the players those players up front are not firing. They're not on form. They're not on form, right? And that is what the big difference is, because you think about the game at Aston Villa, if those guys are firing like they did last year, we would have won that game.
Yeah.
We created so many chances, we would have won that game. If those players had been firing like we know they can do, we would have beaten West Ham. We had loads of chances. We had a chance Saka had right at the start. He's clean through, just rolls it to the keeper and stuff like that. Last year, that would have been buried. Even against Fulham, there was a chance that Saka had. I think at that stage it was 1-1.
No, it's 2-1.
2-1 down.
2-1.
It's 2-1. That chance that Saka had. I see him get chances like that. I was against Leeds. He roofed that into the corner from a tight angle. He just hits it over the bar.
He had time to bring it down.
Had time to bring it down. No composure. Hit over the bar. He's not firing. Lack of goals, even though he's our top scorer. But he should have scored more goals. Jesus, the previous game against West Ham, there was a couple of headers that he missed. One in particular that he should have buried, right? Martinelli, he's only scored 2 goals this season. Last year he was on fire. You know, I mean, you get into certain positions, it's over. You know he's going to score, right? I know that he's, you know, I think he's missing the Xhaka influence down that left-hand side. He used to help him a lot in creation, but he's still not firing to what. So those 3, and then even Martin Odegaard, who last year, remember, 15 Premier League goals. That's a lot for a midfield player, right? He's not really been firing in front of goal. So even with the change of style, those guys are not firing. And that's why, to me, we're not winning games, because yes, maybe we might need to change the style up a bit. And where I do agree with you definitely is there's no real sort of plan B, because if that's not working now, and this is what the worrying thing for me is now, if these guys, because it can be that they find form again and then it all starts clicking and it looks great. But what if it's not? What's the plan B? And then Eddie Nketiah is exactly the same as Jesus, is exactly the same as Martinelli, Partey, Saka. He's the same type of player. He's not big, he's quick. He's, you know, likes the intricate stuff around the box. None of them are in the box waiting for that ball to just get on the end of something. There's no player in Arsenal's forward line that's like that. And that's why I think it would be very good for Arsenal to go into the market in January and try and get just a striker, you know, who's in the box, who will finish off those chances like an Ivan Toney. I don't think we're going to get it, by the way. But I just think it's so difficult to get done this month, and the whole situation at Brentford, I don't think they'll want to sell right now. But that's, for me, is the main problem, because I look at so many games and I'm like, should have won that game. There's games that we've lost, I'm like, should have won that. The only one I can look at and I say, all right, Fulham won, we shouldn't have won. They deserve to win that. The only other game I look at this season and think, we could have won that. We shouldn't have won that game. It's the Newcastle one, because we didn't create enough. Yeah. But every other game, even against Liverpool, created other chances, didn't take. You know, so those guys up front, they've either got to get on it. And it's weird because, you know, I'll tell you the difference, right? Look at them in the Champions League. They're on it. They've been taking their chances.
The other teams are allowing them to play our game more. And I think it's been more a case of the tactics of the other team in the Premier League, that they seem to understand a lot better how to play Arsenal, whereas the teams in the Champions League seem to be coming to Arsenal more gung-ho, which plays into our hands.
Maybe, but I just, you know, I think these guys up front, they need to. I think the break's coming at a good time for them, right? Because I think they need to go away and really, all right, tactics and the way. But are you guys performing? And you look at the stats around it, and how many goals they've scored and assists and all that, and it's compared to last season, and they're nowhere near it. Nowhere near.
But there was also something else that I found that I was concerned about, and that was Kivior. And it wasn't just the fact that I thought Kivior played badly, is that Kivior isn't Zinchenko, and he can't play. He doesn't have the skill set to play the same as Zinchenko. And Arteta didn't compensate for that. He's almost asking him to kind of,
we said that,
to play the same way, whereas he should have adapted it and maybe got Ben White to invert more, so Kivior could play a more traditional left back role.
Can't you play another way if you haven't got the guys? That's the other thing. So if you haven't got the guys to invert,
don't play it.
Why are you trying to do that style to go with a different style? And I'll tell you the other thing. This is the other thing you reminded me of as well, right? The other problem between last year and this year is the fullbacks. Last year, Ben White overlapping, really helping Saka to be as good as he was because of all the work he was doing off the ball. He was overlapping, inverting, supplying. This season, he just seems to be on the halfway line. He doesn't even really be up there half of the time, you know what I mean? I saw the other day where they said looks like he's been carrying a slight injury.
I'm not having that.
Is that something to do with it? And then on the other wing, right, we've had, it's not been as good on the other side either, you know what I mean? Zinchenko, he's still inverting and helping to create and that, but it's just not been as effective, the wing backs either. In my opinion, well, I'm not on about them even so much about their defensive work, which hasn't been as good as it was last year either. But I'm on about them getting forwards, and it's just not. I think more than the system, I feel some of these players have just not been performing to the level they were last year. They've been doing all right. Yeah. They've been doing all right in the most of the games, but I don't know. Last year they were better. Yeah, they're performing better.
And maybe because what you've just turned around and said, the tactics and the way we set up is not actually suiting the way that these players play. It's a great point to shoot. We actually said about
it's not. You know what? It's not a major tactical change.
It is.
I don't think it's a major.
No,
I think I think it's just about controlling it a bit more. But the players are still getting the chances. And they're not putting them away.
It's interesting you should call it wing backs, because for me they're not playing wing backs anymore. They're playing from an old term that you used to hear many years ago, probably back in the 50s, was half backs. And the reason I'm calling it half backs is because they're playing half at the back and half in midfield. They're not playing on the wings.
Yeah. The other side of it is the two wide players are too wide. I know that sounds silly, so you can't. So for a start, if Saka's got the ball where he was receiving it most of the time, it's only one way he can go, and that's inside. So the defence knows that. So you've got to come in a little bit like we was last season to get Ben White going through there. But the other point that was made, which we noticed in the game because we was quite close to the pitch, you're telling players to play positions they're not comfortable doing. Kivior had to ask Gabriel at one stage.
Never seen anything like it.
I've never seen nothing like it, a professional game. He actually turned around to Gabriel, and Gabriel said, "Go."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I agree with you. That's Arteta's fault, because we've seen many a games now that guy cannot play as a left back, and I don't know why. I know obviously there was an injury to Zinchenko. We saw how bad.
He's going to have to do it.
We saw how bad Tomiyasu was when he came on, right? Because he just wasn't. He's not fit. He was just not, for his injuries. So that's why he had to play Kivior there. But if the guy can't do it, why not?
So that's the thing we're saying. Kivior can
play
defend.
Cedric then and shifts over also. Because to me, he can't. To me, I think the goal. I think he should have cleared that.
Yeah, he should have done.
I think if you've got a proper left back, he clears that ball away.
Because he senses the danger.
Yeah, he completely missed it.
What you're asking Kivior to do is he's uncomfortable playing there, and then you're saying to him, right, we're forcing you to do the things that you're most uncomfortable with doing. Instead of saying to him, look, you're a defender, first and foremost defend. And I don't care if if you're not getting
change the system,
which is also causing a little bit of problems going forward. Then for Martinelli, but for a professional footballer to not know exactly what he's doing, and it's not his fault. You know what I mean?
So we've seen this from Arteta before. When he kept trying to play Xhaka at left back and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And it. Sometimes if you just got to say to yourself, that don't work, I'm going to have to change my system. And it's not a problem. This is what really annoys me about Arteta to a certain degree. And people turn around, particularly other sets of supporters go, he's arrogant. And I don't really see it. I've never really seen it. But I do see what they're saying now. It isn't the end of the world. If that doesn't work, I'm like, okay, I'll go back to whatever I want to do. And not people are going to turn around and go, oh, you've got it wrong and all that. I think people will go, do you know what? I admire someone that says it's not worked. I'll try something else and try something different. And I think that's what he's got to do now. I think he's got to go back to what he done last season and say, do you know what? When you look at it and I agree with you, we've had more control of games this season, but the stats show that it's not improved us. In fact, we're worse off. So, it's not worked. We go back to where it was. And one thing that I will say in his defence, and I was talking to a Spurs fan about it, funny enough, the other day, is that when we played last season, it was very much pacey, like injuries and all that, So I think with what he's had with the Champions League and that, he probably had a look at it and thought, I cannot go playing that sort of expansive football and get injuries. I don't know, but I don't know why. I don't think it's that.
So why has he changed? I'd like to sit down and say, why have you changed?
If you actually watch how he's trying to play, it's exactly how Man City play that.
Well, I've had enough of that.
They actually, I've had enough of that. They just do it a lot better. But if you actually look how City play, watch a game how Man City play. They play it's the same way. They got the wide players are out really wide. Yeah. Right. They have a lot. As we know, we see lots of control. Lots of keeping the ball and lots of but the problem, the thing with them is that they're taking their chances. We're trying to play in exactly the same way at the moment. Lots of controlling the ball a lot, particularly in the midfield, keeping it, spreading it, getting it out wide, bringing it back. But we're not. When the chances are coming,
we're more like Liverpool last year, didn't we?
We were more like Liverpool last year,
and that's more exciting as a fan to watch.
It's more exciting, and I don't want us to be like Manchester City all the time.
I do. I want to win.
Yeah, I know I want to win, but it's not a very exciting way to win.
Listen, I just want to win the league, man. That's what I want to do.
Have your own style.
Yeah, but that's the most important thing.
That's obviously the style.
But I actually disagree with when you said you've only got to look at the stats. It depends what you compare against. If you compare the first half of last season to the first half of this season, then we're worse off. If you compare the last 19 games of last season to the first 19 games of this season, we've got more points, so we're better off. So you can manipulate the stats however you like them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I do think.
Sorry, what was that last bit? I missed that. So if you compare
the first 19 games of this season, to the last 19 games of last season, we're better off. We've got 40 points the first 19 games of this season. Last season we ended up with 84, didn't we? So we got 34 points the last 19 games. We got 50 points.
That's because we fell apart.
Yeah. Well, we fell apart. So that's why I disagreed with Lee's stats, in as much as it depends where you compare it to.
You compare it like for like, don't you?
Well, yeah, but like for like can be the last 19 games of last season, because that's the most recent.
You look at it from the first 20 games to the first 20 games, and then the last part. Look, because every part of the season is different, isn't it? Like, you know what I mean? There's last season. There's more pressure going into the last 19 games than there is the first 19 and all that. But I get what you're saying there. Like, you know,
it's more recent.
But is it done though? Is it done? I started asking that. Is there hope, or is it done?
No, I think at the end of the day we're chasing top four, and I'll tell you why.
So you think it's done?
In my opinion, because
hold on, let's get it clear. Yeah. So you think it's done?
I don't think Arsenal win the league this season.
You think it's just top four we're going for?
Top four, and my reasons is that we're points behind Manchester City and Liverpool now. We've got to go to Manchester City, we've got to go to Tottenham, and we've got to go to Man United. They're three very, very difficult games, and somewhere along the line you've got to win two of them to be really back in the side. Unless...
But things can change quickly.
We saw it
change in a week.
They can change, but I don't see I see Liverpool at this moment in time. Listen, Liverpool next few games is going to be very, very important. I do feel that maybe we could catch Liverpool. I do think that maybe that they're not quite, even though they've only lost one game. But I think with Manchester City, I think that they're nowhere near as good as they were last season. They're level on points, which they will be 3 points in front of us. But I just think that those games there, and do you know what? I'm going to say it now. There's another 1, 2, 3 games, and what I've seen in the last 2 games that Arsenal will capable of, because I don't see us changing enough. That's my opinion.
If the question is quite simply yes or no, if it's done, then the answer is no. How can it be done when we're 5 points behind? Liverpool have got to come to our place, not the next home game, but the game after that. And as Robbie said, things can change really quickly. It's definitely not done. I wouldn't say we're favourites anymore, but also, again, to put this into perspective, the Fulham game was the first time that I think we've seen such a poor performance as well as a result. We've had the bad results, but that's the first time. And all the things we've discussed about Arteta and the team playing badly, for the majority of the season, they haven't played badly. They've been winning. And we're in a position where we're close enough to be competing, which is where we want to be. And the other thing that I'm going to pull you up on is what you said on Forever Arsenal, the fact that you thought that, if Eddie Howe's under pressure, then so should Arteta. And for me personally, I couldn't see that the level that Newcastle are at the moment and the drop-off they've had is anywhere near the drop-off that Arsenal have had.
I just feel that from my point of view, Eddie has put Newcastle from nowhere into the top 4.
Yeah.
Right. And
nothing to do with all that
and
money.
unfortunately, they've listen.
It's not nowhere.
Newcastle have not spent as much money as Arsenal.
No, but they've spent a lot of money.
They've spent a lot of money. So have Arsenal. Let's get that right.
Right.
People keep going on about this. Is another thing about it, this and that. Arsenal have spent a lot of money, right? To get to what? Top 4. Right, which is what Newcastle have done. Now, what I'm saying is that he's under pressure, and rightly so, because they've not maintained it this season, and they've gone out of the Champions League, which was a very, very difficult group. And let me add and say that I don't think Arsenal would have got out of that group.
How do you know?
I don't know, but I'm just saying I don't know if they would have.
You think Arsenal would have finished bottom of that group?
I didn't say that. I didn't say they'd finish bottom.
That's because that's.
I didn't say they'd get out of that group.
Newcastle finished bottom of that group. Bottom, so they're out of Europe.
We played in a group.
Let me just remind you where Newcastle right at the moment, right? So Newcastle finished bottom of that. First of all, let's qualify. They've had a lot of injuries. You've got to say that.
Injuries are part and parcel. Arsenal have had a lot of injuries.
But they finished bottom of that group. Yeah. So no Europe, not even Europa League, right? Yeah. And basically, they threw it away as well. Remember, they had that great win over PSG. Then they lost back-to-back against Dortmund. Then, in a game in which they were, they were leading in, they then threw away that lead. And even then, at 1-1, that would have been enough for them to get into Europa League. They still threw that away.
Yeah.
Right? Gone out to Chelsea in the Cup.
Yeah.
Got out to Chelsea in the Cup, and then they're 9th in the Premier League right now.
And that's what I'm saying. So do you think he should be under pressure after what he done last season?
Of course he should be under pressure.
And I totally agree.
Mikel Arteta's nowhere near that.
Hold on a minute. Why is he nowhere near
Because he won his Champions League group.
Okay, right. If you're going to go at me.
I'm just giving you a couple of things. He won his Champions League group. Right, he's 4th in the Premier League. He's 4 points off the top spot at the moment. He's had a bad couple of games, but in general, Arsenal have been doing all right this season. How can he? All right, it's not under pressure yet.
If I could just put it into perspective, and then you can come back. Is that if you look at Newcastle's form since the 7th of December, they've actually lost 7 games. 7 games. They've lost to Luton. They've lost to Everton. They've been hammered. They've lost to Milan.
Lost 9 games.
I believe, right, that at certain times Arteta's lost 7 games in the season, in his first or couple of seasons.
We're talking about now.
Right, and we're talking about now. So, but even so, he's done all that.
Yeah, he was
under pressure. And he's under pressure. I believe that as soon as Eddie loses a game at the moment, as soon as Eddie loses a game, I've seen Arsenal for, he's under pressure, and rightly so. I'm not saying that he should not be under pressure, right? I look at Mikel, and again, I do think that he should be under pressure not on the same field. Champions League, we had an easier group. We went away to PSV, we didn't win. We didn't beat winning Lons. You know what I mean? If we'd have took those performances in the Champions League, in that group that Newcastle were in, we would have struggled.
No, you can't compare.
But that's what I'm saying.
No, hold on, wait a minute.
But what I'm saying is...
You can't compare it, right?
No,
because
I'm not.
The PSV one, we've already topped the group when we went into that game.
But
So you can't...
I am saying that...
He thrashed PSV at home, he thrashed Lons at home.
Yes, and I'm not going into the Champions League. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, he's qualified. Right, I'll say it now then, and I don't want this to happen. If he loses to Porto, is that as good as what is that as great? Because we've got into...
If we knocked out in
the
then he's under pressure.
Yeah. Right. What I'm saying is, at the performances and the decisions that Arteta is making at the moment, no one will turn around and go, he's not under pressure.
Because it's not the same right now.
It's not the same levels.
Because Arsenal Football Club is the third biggest club in this country. It's not a Newcastle, never will be.
No, but
every time you are manager of Arsenal, you should be under some sort of pressure.
But hold on, Lee. He's lost the last 2 games and he is under pressure all of a sudden.
Who is it? Who is?
He's under pressure.
I'll tell you that now. If he loses against Liverpool,
he'd be under big pressure.
Right. What do you think? Do you think Arsenal will sack him?
No, whatever. Newcastle haven't sacked Eddie Howe.
Newcastle lose to Sunderland.
Yeah.
Right. I think that Eddie Howe will get sacked.
He could possibly.
After getting them into the top 4 last season. But everybody turns around and says, with Mikel, let's give him a pass. Let's give Mikel a pass because he's got into top 4.
I don't think he's getting a pass at the moment.
He's not getting a pass.
He's not getting a pass.
He's not been nearly as bad.
He's had a couple of bad games.
Lose their next 3 games.
Well, then that's an if. Then we'll talk about it.
Then we'll talk about it.
Put your money where your mouth is. Do you think he'll get sacked? I don't think he will.
I don't think he gets sacked, but he'd be under huge pressure. He'd be under heavier pressure than what you see Eddie Howe is now.
I don't think he will be. That's my personal opinion. I don't think if Arsenal go out to Porto, if they don't get top 4 right this season, right, I'll tell you this now. Arsenal go out to Porto, right, and we don't get top 4, we end up 6th. Will Mikel Arteta be manager of Arsenal next season? I guarantee you he will be.
He may not be.
Guarantee.
He's not under the same sort of pressure.
He is. Listen, when Eddie Howe lost his first few sort of games, he was under no pressure. Mikel Arteta's just lost 2 games. He's under pressure all of a sudden. I feel now, going into that Liverpool game,
I don't think he's under any
going into that Liverpool game now, he's under huge pressure to win that game. Right, if it was the equivalent with Eddie Howe, he wouldn't be the same. He's not.
Robbie, come on, you know what I mean?
No,
you're going to get a lot of fans turn around and go, it's the FA Cup, we've got bigger fish to fry. Sorry to say that, but that's what they'll be saying. There will be.
Not this time. Not this time. I mean, let's. That's a nice way to move on to that. That FA Cup game for me on Sunday is not we've got bigger fish to fry moment. That is a very important game because of the last 2 results. That is the pressure he's under. Because of the last 2 results, because we've just had a bad Christmas, even though it's not the Premier League, he's under pressure to show the fans of Arsenal and to show all the people that because he's been coming under heavy criticism, to show everybody that, you know what, those are 2 bad results, but this is the real Arsenal, and we can beat Liverpool. And when Liverpool come here in a couple of weeks' time after the FA Cup, we're waiting for him. He's under big pressure to do that this weekend. He's under bigger pressure than Klopp.
I don't see it. I don't see it.
You think if we was to?
I don't think it matters whether Arsenal win or lose this game.
No, that's a big game.
From the powers above. I don't think that it's like for us. It does. Yeah, I mean, it means a lot to us. I don't think it we're seeing with the team selection, if he makes changes and things like that.
I think he'll go strong, very, very strong.
Well, he should do because we haven't got a game for a couple of weeks.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's one reason. Plus, he needs to win it. He's under more pressure than Klopp.
Because if he wins,
he's under way more pressure than Klopp's top of the league right now. Klopp can look on it and say bigger fish to fry. Klopp can look on it and say we're already in the semi-finals of the League Cup.
Klopp came under a little bit of pressure last season, I think.
He did.
There was a lot of talk about that.
True, and they didn't sack him, did they?
No.
No, and rightly so. I don't think Arsenal. By the way, all this pressure, I don't think Arsenal should sack Mikel anyway. Like, you know what I mean? But I just think that there's more. You know, it must be great for you and this is what I think you should get a bit more out of the team and a bit more out of himself, because I don't think he has the pressure of any other manager.
No, this is pressure this week.
In the Premier League.
I think as well, not only this, the other thing about this week is fans want to see a performance. I mean, what do you think, Julia? I think he's under a lot of pressure this week to do well.
Yeah.
I really do.
I mean, the FA Cup.
You won't be calling for his head.
No,
if they lose.
I won't be calling for his head.
That's what I'm saying. So where's the pressure coming from? Where is the pressure coming from?
No, pressure to win the game is not.
You're not calling for it. You're not calling for it.
It's not calling for his head yet, but obviously.
So it's not a pressure game then, is it?
No, it is a pressure game.
At the end of the season, if we're not in the Champions League, and we've gone out of the Champions League, but he wins the FA Cup, that saves his job. So it is a pressure game. So you're saying then, right? Get this right, like, yeah. If Arsenal go out against Porto, right, they end up 6th in the league, but they win the FA Cup. Yeah,
that's good enough.
That's good enough to keep your job, I think, and have another spin next season.
You would keep your job off that.
Yeah. So it is important.
You would keep your job off that because you won a trophy.
And it's a major trophy. Whatever you say about the FA Cup,
I'm not arguing with you. I think it's
and it's also the last game of the season.
Am I imagining it? I thought it was all about top 4.
No, it's about.
Well, no, to me, listen. Well, what do you think? What's more important for you?
For me, it's always been about winning trophies. But listen, Arsene Wenger got the sack.
No, but what do you think? No, I'm asking you.
He didn't.
Wait, 1 second. I'm asking you now this season. What would you rather?
Well, I'd rather win a trophy.
Okay.
Like the top 4. Like, I don't think Arsenal are going to win the league this year. That's my opinion, because I think like they're not. There's been too many mistakes by the manager this season to do that. But what I will do is that you can make it. And Julian come up with a point which was mocked weeks ago. We have got a better chance of winning the Champions League than the league, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because it's only
a cup competition.
certain amount of games, and the same as in the cup. I think you have to have a little bit of luck in the FA Cup as well. And you know, I'll guarantee you now. I reckon we'll probably get Man City away. Or it'll be another big one coming out after this if we get through this one.
I'll tell you what, right? As well, actually, whilst we're on that subject, that's another thing. I don't know about you guys. This FA Cup, the FA Cup needs some serious changes if it's going to survive. I was thinking about it today. The FA Cup, with all these changes that are coming in the Champions League, where it's going to be more teams in it, bigger games, thing.
It's a worry.
That means, right, that some of the big boys might start looking at the FA Cup and thinking, which they already do. They already do. And the other thing, I looked at the FA Cup this week. Let me see if I can.
What I was saying, that if they change, I think that they have changed it now, haven't they? Like, was it the quarterfinals or midweek? They've changed that now, haven't they? Back to a weekend. That was a poor decision.
FA Cup this weekend, right? Obviously, our game's huge game. That's where
they've got games tonight, by the way.
There's two great games this weekend: Arsenal versus Liverpool, and Sunderland versus Newcastle. Those are the two games I'm looking at and think, I'd love to watch. Well, obviously, I'll be at the Arsenal game. I'd love to watch that Sunderland Newcastle game. But some of the other games: Brentford versus Wolves, Fulham v Rotherham, Tottenham v Burnley. Right? Who's going to be running out to watch those games? Coventry versus Oxford United, Maidstone versus Stevenage, Millwall versus Leicester.
Yeah, they'll be a bit disappointed about that.
Newport versus Eastleigh.
But that's one of the draws of the third round of the big teams getting drawn against a non-league team, and that's something we've missed out on.
Luton versus Bolton. Man City versus Huddersfield. Now I'll tell you what. This is what I think. This is what I think they should do, and I think it was Jeff Stelling I heard saying it the other day on Talk Sport, and I agree with him 100%. They should make it a seeded competition.
Yes.
So when you get to the third round, you don't have Arsenal playing Liverpool, right? Which then means that one of them huge teams are going to go out, right? Or the 4th round last year, you don't have Man City playing Arsenal, right? What you do is you make it seeded, so them big teams are going to end up playing some of the smaller teams, right? That means for the small,
Spain, don't they?
Yeah, for the smaller teams, it's great because if you're at Eastleigh, for instance, you could
guaranteed a big team.
You're guaranteed a big team, and you're guaranteed a big payday, and it's probably going to be on TV. And it's a big payday for you. And you know what? You've got a chance of a giant killing as well because the top teams are going to rest a load of players. And it gives the top teams a chance to rest a few players, still thinking that they can go through. And it's a better spectacle for TV. And then as you start to go along now, you get the bigger boys coming up against each other. Because let's be real, right? None of those non-league teams are going to win it. No team... I think I was looking through the last 10 years of the Premier League, 10 years of the FA Cup. It's been won by a Premier League team. Even when Wigan won it, they was in the Premier League, weren't they?
Yeah, they were on the way out though, weren't they?
If you look at the last
team to win it outside the
West Ham
was West Ham.
West Ham. Even when Portsmouth won it that time, they were in the Premier League. When Leicester won it, Premier League team, right? Look at the last 10 years. I think Arsenal won it 3 times.
Yeah, Chelsea,
2 or 3 times. Chelsea, Man City, Man United. It's the same. So you may as well make it a seeded competition. In the early stages, those guys can get their big games, you know, and then you start to filter it down and then you get those really big games at the end. Or if a team's been good enough to topple a couple of the big teams, they make it all the way to the final, and again, it's a great story.
Listen, I think it's a good idea.
You've got to change it.
There is something.
There's part of the tradition.
Yeah, because it's the tradition of.
But the tradition, that's lovely, right? But you've got to move with the times. When those new Champions League format, it is hard, right? But do you know what? The reality of it is in football is that we're starting to see big changes in football. I mean, I was surprised that the first thing you didn't say to me is that, you know, Arsenal, how much are we going to get for winning that game? Because you was reminding me about that a lot the other day when it came.
$500,000, I think, for the FA Cup, wasn't it? And it was only 100,000 for the League Cup.
All right, so how much money will Arsenal get for winning that game against?
It's not
if
a lot.
they beat Liverpool.
But
that's what I'm saying.
I'm talking as a fan that goes to the games, and I love the FA Cup, and I'm quite disappointed.
So do I.
I'm quite disappointed that we've got Liverpool in that it's just a normal game that we'd play anyway. I really look forward to going, like when we went to Oxford last season. And,
exactly.
And again, it's a new ground, and I like new grounds. Adds to the spreadsheet.
I will say this though, as you know, in saying that, and everything you're saying there, Arsenal Liverpool's a sellout.
Yeah,
it is a sellout.
It's easy to get tickets though, isn't it?
Listen, it is a sellout, and that is a game that will be watched. But I'm saying, right, if you're, as I said, Eastleigh, right, who are one of the non-league teams, right, that have made it into, who they got again?
Newport,
sorry.
is it?
Yeah. If you're Eastleigh and you've got Newport, after you've struggled to get through the various rounds, and you've got Newport.
But
and it's no disrespect.
As far as if they get through, they might get another one. But,
and that's the thing. They'll probably get knocked out against Newport.
Listen, when that draw come out, that Newport and Eastleigh, both.
Now, if you knew that when the third round comes now,
you've got
right. You know what I mean? Eastleigh have got a chance of getting a Premier League team because they're seeded. The Premier League teams are top seeds, and they're going to be right at the bottom. So they know their reward is going to be a Premier League team. How great would that be? And then you're going to watch that on TV, isn't it?
It is good. I mean, the only downside that I could think of, and I'm thinking back to Sutton a few years ago.
That was brilliant.
It was brilliant, but getting the tickets, it was really difficult. I mean, I managed to get one in the end, but it took a lot of effort.
Yeah, but the thing is about, again, you're being selfish and just thinking about yourself again. I'm thinking about, for Sutton United, I remember, right, that was fantastic because the guys from Sutton United, they invited us there, and we was even in the boardroom, and that was brilliant, right? And I remember them saying, they go, that one game
makes them
paid for the whole season. They said that whole game, one game, meant that for this season they're going to be in big profit. You know what I mean? Paid for everybody's wages, everything. One game. Because it was being shown, it's not so much the gate receipts, it's the TV money that they get for it. Now, Eastleigh, who's going to watch that on TV? Eastleigh, Newport. I bet that's not even being televised. No. But if it was Eastleigh versus any team in the Premier League,
It would probably be the TV game.
It'd probably be your TV game.
But the TV people also, you have to not criticise, but they ain't silly. They're always going to like that. As soon as Arsenal Liverpool come out, that's guaranteed.
Yeah,
Sunderland Newcastle's guaranteed. Tottenham Burnley, you know what I mean? Like that was always going to be.
But if it'd have been Eastleigh versus
West
Arsenal,
Ham would have been.
Yeah, if it's Eastleigh versus
anyone,
say Eastleigh versus Arsenal, that's on TV, or Eastleigh versus Man United.
I agree.
Because Wigan have got Man United, that's on TV Monday night.
Yeah.
If it had been Wigan versus Eastleigh.
Well, 100% not, like, you know what I mean?
So I'm just saying that. But back on our game anyway, right? That to me, I want to see a strong side because I think it's a big game for Arsenal. It's a big game. Ain't no bigger fish to fry thing in this one. I can tell you that. This is a big game for Arsenal. We need to bounce back by getting a result in this game. And I think as well, confidence-wise, if we can show. Even though, listen, Liverpool will make some changes, I guess. They ain't going to have Salah because he's going away African Cup of Nations. But if we can beat them, that sort of reassures people that, you know what, this team's still very good side. This team's still capable of beating Liverpool. It's a big game for us, man, I feel. If we go on Sunday and say we used to get turned over, like what we saw at Fulham, the doom and gloom around the place, and the pressure that you were talking about that starts to build on the manager. He can relieve a lot of pressure with a big win in that game.
Yeah, I think with Liverpool, I think that sort of game suits us more than a Fulham or a West Ham, if I'll be honest, because they will come out and play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's not been our problem. I think if a team can, and that's when we talk about Champions League, I think that the teams in the Champions League are probably like the top of their leagues or going there. They've got the confidence to go and, you know, well, we're quite confident that we'll give you a game. Sometimes it don't work, but Liverpool won't come here and put 10 men behind the ball. They go for it, and that will make it an entertaining game. I think that if Arsenal play a strong side, I think that we
should they.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think Arsenal should play a strong side in every single game. You know, I look at other teams. I look at, you know, when we went out of the League Cup, you know, that's all right. It's only the League Cup. We're at Liverpool. They're top of the league. They're in the Europa League. They're in the League Cup semi-final. You know what I mean? That's what keeps them doing it. Last season, when we was in the Europa League and top of the league, that's all right. We're out against Brighton. Don't matter. There's a mentality thing. Every game's. If I was a player, I'd rather play than train. I don't know how everybody feels about it, like, but if Arsenal don't win this game, I think they've got 2 games in January. You know, I'd rather be playing football. You know, so I think it's important that Arsenal try and win this game and go strong. I wouldn't be surprised if Raya's in goal, if I'll be honest, and he goes with his strongest side.
I'd only be surprised if he's got intentions of selling Ramsdale in January, because if he plays him, if he doesn't play him in the FA Cup, I think that indicates to me that he's thinking of selling him in January, because so he doesn't get cup tied for another team.
He's got to play him.
He's got to play him if he wants to keep him for the rest of the season.
Well, all the talk is that they want to keep him.
Yeah,
I think Arsenal,
that's a good strategy for getting more money from him. You're not going to say, I want to get rid of something.
No,
because
I think if you
transfer.
look on it, right, I think it only makes sense to sell him if you get a massive fee. And who's going to pay that right now? I mean...
Well, it also depends if you want to bring people in, because we're all talking about what players we want to bring in. But there's 2 types of football. There's the fancy football of, I want this one, I want that one. But the reality of football is you've got to be able to pay for them within FFP. So in order to do that, you've got to sell.
Yeah, but the thing is about it, right? If you sell Aaron Ramsdale, you've got to bring in another goalkeeper as well.
Yeah, but you're not going to spend... Let's say
you've got to bring in a backup.
Let's say you get 30 million for him, which is roughly a little bit more than what we paid for him. You're not going to spend that kind of money on a reserve keeper, bringing them in.
No, but you're gonna have to spend like 10 million.
Yeah, but you still got 20 million.
Or a loan.
Yeah, or a loan.
We spent 30 million on goalkeepers. You know, we spent 30 million on him when he was meant to be a backup for Leno.
So you should get 35
I don't think
we get more than that for him.
Looking at it at the moment, I can't see who's going to pay that in January for Aaron Ramsdale. Teams will want him on loan. That makes no sense sending him out on loan, because we're going to have to get another goalkeeper, right? But teams will want him on loan. But even like Newcastle, that Dubravka's done all right. He's played a lot of saves the other day. And even the other team that was interested in him, which was Chelsea, that Petrovic guy's come in and has done very well as well. Yeah. So, you know, I don't think they're going to shell that 30 million. Aside of them, I can't see who will come in and want Ramsdale. And Ramsdale's going to want to go to a club as well. If he's going on a permanent move, that's going to be in the Champions League. He's not going to want to drop down out of that. Yeah. He'll go on loan to a lesser club, but makes no sense Arsenal sending him on loan to a lesser club, because if there's an injury to Raya,
it'd be interesting. I think that's the interesting call, isn't it? Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I think the rest of the team probably picks itself to a certain degree.
Ramsdale's got to start that game. If he don't start in, I'll be upset. I'll be upset if he doesn't start. He's got to start that game against Liverpool.
He has to start so long as they haven't got something lined up to sell.
Well, I mean, you make a good point. If he don't start it can only be that reason. Because he has to start that game for me.
Well, don't forget, Raya ain't got a game for 3 weeks.
Aside from that, I want to see the strongest possible Arsenal team. The strongest possible, because, you know, as I said, I do feel, you know, you're coming up against a team that's really on form at the moment. Even the players they'll make a few changes, but those players that they'll change, they've got a very good squad.
They're changing their goalkeeper, aren't they?
Yeah, they may do. They may not.
They might not, but normally they would. But listen, they've got Liverpool have got where they could actually play Alisson in this game, and then play the other goalkeeper in the League Cup tie on Tuesday or Wednesday. They've got Fulham, haven't they?
Yeah.
So you know, like, listen, Liverpool have got a semi-final 3 days later after this. They're playing the Wednesday, don't they? Because we're playing.
Have they got their mid-season break at the same time Arsenal have, or not? Have they got a game next weekend?
I think they play next weekend, don't they? I think they play Tottenham.
No, they've got Man United have got Tottenham. I don't know. They've got,
no, maybe they've got their break then. Maybe they've got their break after this.
They've got that League Cup tie.
I think after that League Cup game, they have got a break.
And that's a two-legged game?
Yeah.
So they've got more to worry about than us for fixture congestion.
Yeah, but they've got a good squad. You saw last week when they bought on the players that they bought on off the bench, like Jota and people like that. You know what I mean? So
and they've got players that make a difference. That Jota comes on and makes a difference. You know what I mean?
Gakpo came on, scored as well.
Yeah, but they've also got an injury now to the Czech guy, Zabog. Can't pronounce his name. Zabozlai.
Yeah, but they're going to be without probably him. They're going to be without Endo, who's going with Japan to the Asian Cup, and obviously no Salah.
Salah's gone.
So I think this is a chance for...
Their squad is stretched a little bit then.
Arsenal have got to go with the strongest team, try and get out there, make a statement, win the game, get fans believing again, get the players believing. Because they must be doubting themselves right now, these players, because, you know, we can all see it, that they're not... I said it. Those front three, for instance, are not firing like they were last year. We can all see it. They'll feel it. And they'll know it. And this is their chance to go out there in front of a packed house. The world will be watching this game. It's the biggest game of the weekend. And show people that, you know what? It was a blip.
Are you looking forward to the game?
I'm looking forward to the game.
No, I look forward to it, but I'm not this one.
I'm looking forward to the game, but it's a lot of pressure.
I'm not. You know, I mean, like when we played West Ham, I was buzzing for that game. Like, you know what I mean. Then after that, I was apprehensive going into the Fulham game. I said that to you before the game. I didn't fancy us.
And then after the Fulham game, you said, "I'm never going again."
I said, like, you know,
is that what you said?
I never said that.
You did, and I can't even repeat what you said to Ty walking back to the car.
Oh yeah, I was only moaning about when I was saying, because he goes. Listen, I'm sorry. I got, you know, I was mucking about. We're not trying to wind him up. He was saying,
take a lot to wind him up.
He was saying that, you know, Arsenal deserved to win that game, and it was all he was saying it was all down to the referee. I weren't having that. You know what I mean? He could not actually.
He couldn't bring himself to
hold his hands up and say
I wanted to kill him as well.
He was beaten by the better team that day. Like, you know what I mean? Listen, I've not walked out. I think that's the last time I've walked out of a stadium thinking we didn't deserve nothing. Was Manchester City last season. You know, when you have to hold your hands up.
There was an excuse with that because we were playing Manchester City, whereas this time we're playing Fulham.
But I have to say, hold your hands up. Fulham deserved that. I could not think of an excuse. And
West Ham deserved it as well.
You even come up with an excuse when it started raining and the wind was swirling, saying, "Well, this is going to be a little bit more difficult for us to get back into the game."
It was. It was unfortunate that weather came in when it did, and I know.
That was lashing.
It was lashing. I understand what you're saying
because what it did, it cooled the atmosphere of the game. You couldn't play football for that sort of 15-20 minutes, which is when Arsenal wanted to come back into it. But then, look, you can't blame totally on the weather.
No, you can't. But what I'm saying is, you just got sometimes you've just got to hold it and say that weren't. And
they deserved it.
They deserved it. And and if Arsenal play like that again against Liverpool, I don't think that they. That's the problem.
Play like against Liverpool,
when people turn around and go, "Well, we won't play like that against Liverpool." Well, why did you play like that against Fulham?
Yeah. But it could have been a one-off. Look, hopefully it is a one-off, which is why I don't think Arteta should be under the same kind of pressure as Eddie Howe, who's lost so many games.
Funny enough, we're talking about that. Fulham nearly beat Liverpool at Anfield. Remember they had them 2-1 down. And they're a decent side,
He's done a fantastic job there. I think
they're a decent side.
You look at it. Also, he's lost his top goal scorer, in Mitrovic, and he's found a way of.
He's got Jimenez playing again.
Yeah, he's taken 5 points off of us.
Yeah.
They've got 4 points up, but we've lost 5 points against them. And you have to give credit when you look at the stadium and everything like that.
I like the stadium.
It's a fantastic stadium, but it's small, isn't it? What I mean? And whatever, unbelievable that they've done that.
Yeah. So big game this weekend. Actually, do you know the significant thing that's going to be happening in that game?
With the white shirts,
the all white kit
again.
Yep, Arsenal will be wearing that.
Not one. Oh yes, we did. We
beat Oxford in it. We beat Oxford in it last season.
Not a great performance.
No, I don't remember it other than we won. I think it was 3-0, wasn't it?
I remember it was freezing cold.
I remember El Nini scored and it was freezing cold.
Yeah, freezing cold.
We went shopping first.
And that was a day that. Do you remember that fella come up to us and showed us some texts about
Declan Rice, and we just thought it was something
related to him, wasn't he? Or something? And we just thought it was a bit. And he said, "No, I've got texts," and we said, "Well, you don't have to prove it like that." And he showed us, didn't he?
He proved it, but then I said, "Well, it could be anyone's number."
Could be anyone, but it did turn out to be.
He was right. He was spot on.
We did turn out to be spot on.
Wearing that all white kit is, of course, the initiative that they do against knife crime, which is a fantastic initiative. So. Well done to Arsenal for that. So they'll be wearing that all white kit. What colour will Liverpool wear then? I hope they don't wear red then. Can't have a team coming down and wearing red.
They have to, because their away kit's white and green, isn't it?
Also, they got another away kit, don't they? Sort of purple one, don't they?
I'd imagine they'd come and play in their red.
They can't have a clash.
You've got an opportunity to wear your red kit at the Emirates. So I'm asking it.
Can't have that, can we?
It'd be a great opportunity to wear it at Anfield, wouldn't it? If they'd done it, like, you know what I mean? Because we've never wore our red kit at Anfield, have we? Like, so
we've got a good record with the yellow.
But all white kit,
but not that
we'll be wearing for that sort of anti-knife crime initiative, which. With the amount of knife crime that we've seen in London, especially there was something a few days ago that happened where a kid got killed. I think it's a great initiative, I
love the way Arsenal, do things like that. They're very classy on things like that. And it's a great
doing more than the flipping government on these things half of the time.
A great thing. I wish that with a couple of the shirts though. I know that they auction them and all that, but that's for the rich people. To auction them and all that. It would be nice if they just said a little prize raffle or something for the.
They should sell them.
Yeah,
that shirt, that kit, or that all white.
Yeah,
they should sell it. Sell it in the shop, and all the money goes to the because I think they give a lot of them to people that have done a lot in the community as well. So they give them away which is a really nice thing as well. But I think sell them. You can make a load of them. Just do a limited run. Like what they do on a lot of their other stuff, and all the money that they make from it, say
for a month, you can buy it for a month.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, would you buy one, Julian?
I might not necessarily buy one, but I'd try and source one.
So even though it's going for a great cause, you wouldn't be willing to buy it.
I'd give my private contribution.
No, what is your private contribution is buying the shirt?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, but then I'd know that if I give my private contribution, 100% of the funds would go to the charity.
How do you know that?
Because I'd make sure that it goes direct to the people that that need it rather than through.
So you don't trust Arsenal
so you don't trust Arsenal.
But there's a lot of. It obviously brings on to a different subject. There's a lot of.
You caught right out here, isn't it?
No. You know what I mean? There's a lot of apparent charitable contributions where only a very small amount of the money you contribute.
So then, if you donate it into a charity, you don't. It may be the same thing then.
Yeah, but there's always more direct ways to contribute, and I always like to go direct.
So you're just going to walk into a community and then start handing out money to people?
That's probably what I'd do, yeah.
No, you wouldn't do that. 100% you wouldn't do it. You'd buy the bloody shirt. Because I know for you would definitely be not walking into any community giving any handouts. That's one thing for
I would buy the shirt because I actually quite like the shirt, and you could wear it with anything, couldn't you? So I do think Arsenal have missed a trick by not.
Although I have to say that I prefer the darker colours because they make me look thinner.
The green and blue?
Yeah,
they're fantastic.
That is coming probably next season.
Can I just say that he promised me for my birthday back in August? Right, he came to me. I didn't want nothing for my birthday. He said, "I'm going to buy you the green and."
I didn't say buy it. I said I'd source it
for my birthday, which was back in August. Right now we've gone past August. We've gone past Christmas. I still ain't got that shirt.
So what's that? You've got it at the shop.
Yeah, I like to get them from more unique locations.
Well, what are those?
No, we can't. We'll put it this way: cheaper. You know what I mean?
But it's a present.
It is a present, and I will make sure you'll get a present that you will appreciate.
By time for the next birthday.
Yeah. Before the next birthday.
So you got to wait to source it.
Yeah. It's on its way. And I actually made a call on the way here. Hasn't been forgotten.
Yeah, all right. Anyway, listen, before we go, predictions for that game on Sunday.
I think 3-1 to Arsenal.
3-1?
Yeah, I think it's going to be open.
They've only lost one game this season, Liverpool.
Yeah, but it's different in the FA Cup.
3-1.
A heart saying we're going to win 2-0.
Yeah, what's your head saying?
I'm saying we could come unstuck.
All right.
So what's the prediction then?
I'm still going to go 2-0. Listen, do you know what I'm going to say? I think home advantage is a massive thing in these games. I do. I think
last time they played us in the cup, though, they beat us as well. Remember?
Yeah, and would you remember 0-0 up their place, and they turned us. They've done a proper job on us.
About the League Cup.
Yeah, the League Cup. Done a proper job.
He always scores, and he's back.
Done a proper job on us that day.
I'm going 2-1 Arsenal. I do think it's going to be a close game, but home advantage just about gets us over the line. We need it. We need it badly. I feel, after what has gone on over the Christmas period.
We need it as also, Rob, because, I'm not being all right. The fellow I get on the trainer, he's a lovely guy, but he's a Spurs fan, but there's a little smirk at his face when he said, "Do you have a nice New Year, Chris?" There was a little smirk on his face, you know what I mean? And you got to lie, really. I'm going, yeah, it was great and all that, but deep down it hurt. We need to stop the banter a little bit, you know what I mean? We need to get us back on.
And a win against Liverpool
helps.
In the FA Cup. No, it would do that because then we haven't got a game for a few weeks and we'd be leaving on a high.
Yeah, I agree. I think that exactly that, because it ain't great. You know what I mean? I'll tell you what it is. I went football yesterday, and you got the Spurs into. You know it's coming. You know what I mean? But if you get that win, you can go wherever you want and be a little bit.
And then you start talking about 61.
I was in the gym the other day. You know what I mean? I walked past this fella. He's big fella as well. Like, wheels have come off your train, haven't they? Like, you know what I mean? And I looked at him and said, "Oh, Spurs, Spurs." And I felt like, well, you're a bit bigger than me, so I had to be nice to him. Like, do you know what I mean? I felt like dropping the dumbbell on his foot accidentally or something like that. Do you know what I mean? And he's just got to take it in a minute. So come on, Arsenal, win on Sunday.
Come on, let's do it. Listen, thanks for watching the show today. Don't forget you can download this podcast on all your usual formats, and we'll be back next week, hopefully talking about a win over Liverpool, and looking forward to who we got next in the FA Cup. Fingers crossed. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Julian. Hope your neck's better, and we'll see you next week. The Invincible podcast. Myself, Robbie, and Lee Judges come together once a week to discuss all things Arsenal. Straight talking, considered discussion, brought to you by the fans of the only club in Football League history to go invincible.